Bienvenidos a todos, and welcome everyone to the panel. I'm not going to do introductions right now. I'll let the panelists introduce themselves. I don't want to butcher anybody's names. But thank you for joining us. We're going to talk about a very interesting theme today. I'm Rohn Malhotra. I'll do my own introduction at the end. But our topic today is risks and opportunities, how to address blockchain and NFTs in sports from a strategic perspective. And I have an excellent panel, I think, that we're going to discuss this topic with. Peter Drucker, a famous management consultant, said, innovate or die. And this is a theme that's growing in importance in today's world, especially in sports, which has traditionally not been an industry that has embraced change very easily. Sports has traditionally been a bit behind the curve when it comes to adopting new technology. However, today, with Web3, sports is driving that change. It seemed like nobody knew what NFTs were until Dapper Labs and NBA Top Shot came out. So sports has been at the forefront, and today we're going to discuss more risks and opportunities. But who are we going to discuss this with? This very nice-looking, good-looking panel. I'll start with the ladies on the far end. Why don't you take a minute to introduce yourselves, and we'll kick it off from there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My turn. So I'm Cristina Carrascosa. I'm the founder of ATH21. We are the first crypto-specialized law firm in Spain. And among our experience, we advised the first crypto main sponsorship transaction between a crypto company like Socios and a La Liga football club. We led the first regulated initial token offering in Spain too, hand-to-hand with the regulators. And something that is very special about us is that our clients find a global answer to their projects and their problems, because we cover all the areas of practice. I'm a tax lawyer. That was my specialty. Now, of course, I'm a Web3 freak, and that has also some of the people in the audience, I think, know me a little bit and know I'm a freak. And this is actually what we are doing. And we are also advising many football clubs in La Liga, and this is why I'm here.
Fantastic. Thank you, Cristina. Also, to clarify, it's ATH21,
yeah.
not AT21. Yeah?
Yeah, thank
Make sure you get that right. Reyes?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Reyes Bellver. I'm a sports lawyer and focus on football law. I'm founder of Bellver Sports Legal Boutique based in Madrid, and I focus on advising players, women and men, and also football clubs and defense players before CAS, core arbitration for sports, and also advising contracts. And I'm an external consultant for FIFA professional, the football department. And my experience grows to this ecosystem is from my part of a football lawyer, trying to giving this advice to my clients, players, most of them, the players, about investment in this kind of startups, so this metaverse, Web3, and the things that we are going to talk. So I'm not a tech lawyer, I'm a football expert, so I have a lot of concerns and questions, and I would like to point out some risks also. And well, I'm very happy to be here with all the experts and colleagues. Thank you.
And those risks are important. Also, we should point out that Reyes is not very happy about being on this stage. Because as from her colors, you can tell, she supports the other team.
The most important thing of my life is that I'm a Real Betis Balompié fan. I'm a very, very football fan. And my team is Betis, and I'm here in the Sevilla Football Club stage. So for me, it's the first risk that I'm living today. But, well, this is for later for a coffee.
Reyes will try not to destroy the stage completely before we leave. Joern.
Yeah, hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Joern. I work for FIFA in a department that's called Audit, Risk and Advisory. And as the name suggests, we deal with risk management for FIFA. So I'm mainly in charge of risk management. I help FIFA implement their first risk management framework. And as you can guess, we have a lot of risks at FIFA as a body in charge of organizing multinational events, tournaments all around the world. So we have a huge risk exposure, and it's important to manage these risks, of course. Then we also provide advisory services to divisions across FIFA on strategic topics. So one of our recent projects is connected to fan engagement. So improving fan engagement across our tournaments from an analog and a digital perspective. And we also work together with a team that's responsible for FIFA Plus, our digital platform that launched recently. And apart from that, I'm also a researcher at the German Sports University in Cologne, where I research the risks and opportunities that metaverses and other Web3 applications provide for sports organizations.
Fantastic, thanks, Joern. And last but not least.
Thank you. Nicolas Marullo. So I'm in trouble, 2 lawyers and a risk management person here. 20 years ago, I was a lawyer in mergers and acquisition, but I then turned bad. I'm president and CEO of a company called CINCO. Our journey with the Web3 and metaverse started 3 years before the Olympics in Tokyo, where we started thinking about ideas, how to bring people together for the Tokyo Olympics. And everybody knows what happened to the Tokyo Olympics, but we repurposed all the work that we did in metaverse and the beginning of blockchain technology, and we launched a platform called XSpace. Now, the journey continues over the last couple of months where it's been completely crazy. Now we're advising with some of the sponsors of the Paris Olympic on how to, what to do in Web3 and the metaverse.
Very cool. So quite a few lawyers then. Get more popping up the stage, yeah. I think I'm in trouble. So I'm Rohn, Malhotra, co-founder of SportsTechX. We're basically a market research company. My job and the job of my team is to stay on top of whatever new is happening in sports tech. What are the latest trends in different parts of the world, comparing investment trends in startups from the US to Europe to Asia. And we present this research in the form of content. We have a lot of reports that we publish, and we do a bit of consulting. We do a bit of startup connections for fundraising. But that's enough about us. I think you want to hear from them. So as far as the topics today, I'm going to follow Aristotle's rule of 3, which is to try to have 3 key takeaways that we want to take away, well, from this panel. Those are in the form of 3 questions that I would like the panelists to answer. Question number 1, is it absolutely necessary now for sports organizations or leagues or anyone within the sports industry to start experimenting with Web3? Is it a now issue, or do you have time? Number 2, as the title suggests, what are the opportunities that this new technology presents? And number 3, what are the risks that need to be covered? And I think we've got plenty of risk management experience on this panel to address all those topics. So I'll start with you, Joern. And by the way, I hope everybody can hear us okay. In case there are any problems with mics or anything, please let us know. So I'll start with FIFA. As you already mentioned, FIFA Plus and FIFA Plus Collect has been this new initiative that FIFA has launched. I guess the question is, why did FIFA find this timing now? Why was it necessary for FIFA to come up with this platform in this moment?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Good question. Why now? So I think first of all, the FIFA World Cup in Qatar is coming up, so that's probably very good timing. But also, I think for all sports organizations, not only FIFA, it's really important to keep in mind what new generations of fans want. So we all know, football has a lot of supporters, obviously, but we also need to make sure that in the future, people will also support football. They will get what they want in terms of, like products, offerings from clubs, from associations, leagues, and also federations, obviously. So my topic is everything around the new generations, the consumer research. So, for instance, Generation Z, which are mainly people born between 1997 roughly and 2012. These are like the people we see as the new generation of sports fans. And that's not a FIFA perspective alone, that's more like from research, right? And when it comes to this consumer research, it's very important to understand what these guys want from us, from football, from our products in the future. And I can just tell you a very brief story. I went to South Korea a couple of years ago, and I attended a football match there. And there were like 1,000 people in a stadium that had a capacity of 65,000 during tournament times, for example. Now, I know that baseball is more popular in South Korea compared to football, so that explained why there are comparatively few fans attending. But then a couple of weeks later, I attended a match there where there were like 40,000 people, and they were watching a League of Legends match on stage there. So they were basically watching 2 teams playing a computer game against each other. So for me, it was very strange to watch that, but it was a huge party, it was an amazing event, and that was for me the moment where, like in Germany, we say aha moment, like, you know, where I understood, like, okay, you know, maybe these younger people, they want something else, which maybe a little bit older generations have a hard time understanding, right? So I think that's a key to focus on these fans and then develop our products around the consumer tastes and what they need.
Makes a lot of sense, putting the fans at the center of the universe. By the way, to address Joern's point, anybody who has been born in the 90s or later in this audience? I think primarily we have, oh yeah, we have a few up there. Okay, I'm curious to hear your perspective. How many NFTs do you own? Does anybody own NFTs? Actually, yeah, just a quick show of hands. Any NFT owners? Zero? Zero? We've got a few. Okay, so there is some work happening in this space already. To Cristina, now we heard that, I mean, clearly FIFA places fans at the center of it, but what else do sports entities need to consider if they are experimenting in this space, in your experience?
I would say they would really need to first actually address the question of where do I want to be next year or in a 5-year period, because not all clubs are going to be in the same place. I've seen this evolution where, like 5 years ago, and as like Joern was saying, 5 years ago, there was no interest whatsoever in crypto from football clubs. It was like this niche of freaks typing code. Then came ICOs and tokens, and with fan tokens, and especially the metaverse, it has boosted interest of, I would say, mainly all the big traditional firms, not just clubs or football clubs, in this space. So if they want to enter the space of, I say Web3, but Web3 includes metaverse, tokens, fan tokens, and all these sort of Web3 type of companies and or projects. I would say that metaverse, of course, is the most popular one. I would say maybe it's the one that will take the most years to develop in a practical and attractive way, because if you enter now at Decentraland, it may be fun, but it's not that attractive because avatars aren't that so neatly well developed. I would say it's not a short journey, it's a long-term journey, because engaging in Web3 projects is something that needs to be addressed also from a legal perspective. Yeah. And in that sense, frameworks are now being developed. It's essential to decide which jurisdiction projects are going to be based in, because, you know, we've got these sort of fragmented frameworks all over the world, and we've got the US SEC wanting to get jurisdiction over every single Ethereum project, and you've got the Spanish regulator saying this, German regulator saying that. So that should be, for me, and as a lawyer, of course, the first risk or challenge to address.
Fair to understand, let's say, where this technology is coming from and how we connect to it, and let's say what ecosystems it operates in. Reyes, to you, how can, because we're seeing, like FIFA Plus Collect, we've seen so many sports organizations over the last 18 months launch some sort of NFT platform. Yeah, either as a collectible, either through socios or fans, so rare, or do something on their own. Yeah, but I'm not sure they're really prepared or they're ready for what they're getting into. How can sports organizations better prepare? What steps do they need to take internally before they start addressing this topic?
Well, I think first is to know the ecosystem. I think the big problem here is that the clubs and also the players doesn't know what is this. What is an metaverse or Web3? It's like, okay, this is an NFT and I'm going to buy a sticker and that's all. And I put my money in this startup and in this company and that's all. And it's not, that's all. So this is the big problem. So clubs and athletes and players, every day they are receiving a lot of proposals for investment in this ecosystem, but they doesn't know what is it and the whole ecosystem. So we have a lack of knowledge and expertise, and I think this is the big problem. First, we need to put the hands of inside the clubs and also the the people surround the players with expertise, with people that are experts and know this ecosystem and can explain why you are buying an NFT. It's not only to put my money and lose money, because there are a lot of people, and maybe this is something unpopular, but I'm here to tell, I think, the reality, that are losing money with this. And this is a risk. And also the connection with betting. These cryptocurrencies, for me, is like, this is the same that betting. So we are in a red line, and it is really, really important to receive a good advice. The sports entities and the clubs should hire people who really know what is this ecosystem, the whole ecosystem, not only to buy an NFT, and then to prepare and to make a strategy to develop this in a good way and with good governance principles. That's all. I'm a lawyer and always try to advise that this is something without no question, no? It's something that you need to receive this advice. So a lot of concern, there are a lot of good points, but I know that my colleagues that are working inside, they know really well, and I think the main issue is to have the right people and to have knowledge and expertise in this ecosystem.
Yeah, fair point. I mean, finding the right partners to work with, especially in a fast-changing environment. I'll give you one example. Dapper Labs, of course, is under scrutiny by the SEC right now because the consideration is that the Dapper Labs, the NBA Top Shot NFTs are actually securities. And that's coming under a lot of scrutiny. So, I mean, there's no legislation been passed yet. But if they come under securities, are considered securities, what does that mean for the NBA? And do they need to be a registered financial institution? Like things like that. And for you to be prepared for all these eventualities is really important. Nicolas, with you, I mean, we've talked about fans being at the center of the experience and why this is important. We've talked about preparedness. But for anybody who's maybe not convinced about, let's say, experimenting in Web3 as a service provider, what would you say about why they should start?
Innovate or die. It's, I think it's very clear that we have a tendency to look at these type of things that we kind of don't understand from a business perspective. I think we need to look at it from a user perspective. Any change in technology starts with a change of behavior. If we look at the evolution where we are right now, we are at Web3, but there was a Web2 and there was a Web1. I think we need to ask the question, why did we have Web1? Because we wanted to go from live banner to digital banner so we can reach more people. Web 2 was about conversation. How can we speak to each other and then get the consumer or fans involved in the conversation so there's a two-way conversation? So what is Web 3? Web 3 is taking 2D, breaking it into 3D because we want to be immersed in 3D now. We see millions of people playing games. You talked about League of Legends. The idea of there's a whole generation that lives in 3D world, so they experiment in 3D world, so they want to engage in 3D world, they want to talk to in 3D world. So that's the first thing that's going to be important, that companies or sponsors or team need to know their fans are experimenting in 3D. Secondly is ownership. We talked about NFT and how to protect, and I think the first step that they need to take is to understand that when somebody buys something, it's theirs. So they need to be able to do different things, and that's what NFT brings to the table. I can turn around and sell it to anybody here, which is something new. So that change in consumer and fan behavior, that's what companies, sponsors, and teams need to understand. It's not about them. It's about the next generation of people that we're trying to engage with and talk to them. So I think the first step is this. Secondly is there's a road to, let's say, the metaverse, which you said that is going to be the end result of it. There's a road to get there. The metaverse is exactly what e-commerce was. Some companies just jumped into it. Some companies waited. What was the framework for e-commerce? I buy something in Ireland. The servers are in Spain, and I'm selling to somebody in France. What law do I apply? The exact same thing is applying right now to an ecosystem that is completely like we don't know where to go. So what we need to do, we need to go step by step, keep the consumer in mind, and what we do, and not miss the boat like a lot of companies did for Web 2.
Yeah, I think that theme of innovate or die is super strong, and that's the point that we want to drive. Look, we're not saying that yeah, if you don't jump on it, you'll miss the bus. Yes, you have to jump on it, but in a prepared way, work with the right partners, find the right solutions. To add to the points, there are a couple of areas within Web3 that I think are especially important. Smart contracts. For any organization today to understand how smart contracts really work, how does a contract become auto-enforceable, that it functions by itself, that's an entity that keeps generating either revenue or conditions. Digital wallets, which have become the center of the fan experience. How do you interact with that? How do I integrate digital wallets on my website? NFTs are the first step. What else can we do? Different forms of interaction. Discord has become the place for this entire community to exist. What is happening there? Right, so these are just some examples of ways that sports entities can start experimenting. You don't have to launch FIFA Plus Collect tomorrow. It takes time to get there, but at least start experimenting.
Can I add to your point?
Of course.
I think what's really important to understand is that if I ask anybody here, what is the internet? I'm going to have different answer. Everybody will have this answer. If I go back to the birth of the internet, and I would ask somebody that knew about the internet, it would be like a network of computers talking together. I think we're at the same stage here, where we talk about blockchain, NFT, DAO, and things like those are complicated. We go to technical stuff. The conversation in a couple of years would be, what does it do? If I click on a website, it appears. I don't know what it does, the network's a computer. I think to gain mainstream, the Web3 world is going to need very practical application of, I don't care what's behind, does it do for me? How do I apply it to my life as a fan or as a team? And I think it's going to take a couple of years for real example to come to life and people understand what is it for. Then we'll get mass adoption. Then we'll get companies, sponsors, teams getting involved. And that's what's going to take a couple of years because right now there's a lot of NFT projects that are dying. Crypto, as you can see, is going down for different reasons. So we're scared of getting into this world until we realize, okay, these are the real concrete application of a blockchain. These are real application of an NFT, for example. But then we'll have mass adoption.
True. Utility, utility, utility. That's the phrase, right? But why are we doing this? Let's speak about why we're doing this. Let's speak about the opportunities. Reyes, maybe I'll start with you. We talked about licensing deals as becoming the, let's say, biggest way for sports entities to derive revenue from these projects. But what should a sports organization consider? I mean, it's all about the fine print, right? What rights am I giving and what rights am I controlling? Is that a big area of opportunity for sports entities?
Yes, I think there is a lot of opportunities related to fan engagement, but also the smart contracts that you I'm going to talk before. And also from my legal perspective, I think there is a big opportunity in relation to anti-doping that I think, and data. It's an opportunity, also it's a risk because it's something close to data privacy, or the legal issues, that maybe for another session. But it's really important to create something for the athletes close to this data and this all the medical reports to control this and to have this transparency and protection, and maybe blockchain is something that could give us this from the sports entities and clubs. So this is a big opportunity, but we need to explore, as I said before, with the right people and with expertise and knowledge and with a strategy, not something that, okay, now this is fancy now, I put an NFT and I buy and I lose money. No, please. So I think we need to think deeply and try to find these good opportunities. And for example, for me, the anti-doping could be something important.
I think that's a great example because that's truly leveraging some of the best aspects of Web3 technology. This data is immutable, means it cannot be erased. It is permanent. So it's always there and always accessible by anyone. It's democratically available. So when it applied to something like doping, it's transparency. That's what we're trying to achieve. Cristina, staying with you. So, I mean, I'm sure these guys will talk a lot about revenue and fans and things like that. And anti-doping is a great one, but what else can you see this technology or different ways that it can be applied? Whether it's, I don't know, in your experience at ATH 21, what have you seen about different ways it can be done?
I'm just going to speak a little bit about revenues, but I'll leave you the growth for you guys. I've got like 19 years of experience in crypto as a lawyer. I've been practicing for free, now I'm not practicing for free, and I've seen a lot of opinions about how to approach the technology. As for football clubs, I think there are like two different perspectives. Those clubs that actually take the option of fast and easy money, and we've seen perfect examples of this, and those clubs that actually take very seriously Web3 as a new revenue channel and design long-lasting projects. And in this sense, we've been working, for example, not only with fan tokens, but also with football clubs that are using not NFTs, but like real metaverse places where fans that aren't located in stadiums can have their immersive experiences. I don't think that's so immersive right now because hardware is still being developed and now experiences are not that attractive, as I said before, but those are, for me, like the long-lasting projects of football clubs that know that they have a new audience, and there was a panel about Gen Z in the main stage, and this new audience, this new generation, are demanding new things. And these new things can, of course, not only be given to them through Web3 products, but Web3 helps. Okay. And also there's a very interesting piece of information that is developing Web3 projects was so expensive 5 years ago. Hiring a Web3 developer was like really expensive because there were a few of them. Now, it's not that expensive. And if you actually do this analysis of risk vs benefits, you can see that investing a considerate amount of money, you get a very long-lasting infrastructure in the metaverse that you are going to be able to use like for as long as you want.
Right. That's a great point. Again, building a skill set in-house, these resources, I mean, famously, for example, the Ethereum merge happened over the last few weeks, which has been, a lot has been said about the impact of it on cost, and maybe you won't see that straight away, but over a period of time, it's just inviting more players in, more actors into the ecosystem. Joern, maybe let's talk about sponsorship for a bit, because as Cristina mentioned, this is a lot of revenue on the table for large sports organizations, but it's also about finding the right partners. No? I mean, for example, the Crypto.com arena with the Lakers, you've got the FTX arena in Miami, Inter Milan has a shirt sponsor, you see socios everywhere, maybe we saw it at the Sevilla Stadium as well. How does a sports organization consider working with sponsors that come from this space?
Yeah, I think before considering even sponsors, we have to take a step back and adding on what Cristina said, like knowing really what the consumers want. Because if there are no fans, no consumers, eventually we'll have no sponsors, right? Sponsors come with the consumers and the fans. So I think we're still at the stage where we're considering what the consumers want. And there is a lot of more research needed, also scientific research into what let's say, the Generation Z wants. Because, for example, for many of the older generations, let's say millennials or Generation X, it's very difficult to understand why, like, for example, players in an online game, like, for example, my kids' generation, they would purchase part of equipment for their avatar, like a shirt or a gear or something, right? So I understand why they would buy a better weapon or like a camouflage shirt or something, you know, but then they purchase something like a pink shirt or something. And I'm like, why are you purchasing a pink shirt for your avatar? And they're like, yeah, because it looks cool. But I'm like, but isn't the whole purpose not to be seen, like hide with your avatar? Because you need to shoot your enemies, kind of like in most of these games, you know? And then they say, no, but my friends, they see me like that, and I'm cool if my avatar wears this pink shirt, which is uniquely whatever designed. And this shirt is also, by the way, an example for, it's technically classifies as an NFT, right? So that's like in-game sales and purchases that many older generations, like I have to be careful about older generations, right? We're not that old, but you know, like the decision makers in sports organizations, they technically are mostly, they're not like in their teens anymore, right? So if we look at these consumers, we need to really understand them and their behavior first. Then, like what Cristina said, right? Then design the products around their tastes, what they want, and then once we get their interest, then we can attract the sponsors that also fit with these interests and needs of the consumer groups.
Fair point. I mean, you have to solve for retention first. Any app builder, you'll you'll talk to will always say the first problem you want to solve is retention, which is keeping the users that you have. So finding good products that actually are sticky, that your users want to come back to again and again, and then you solve acquisition, etc., which is where maybe sponsors will come in. We will get a word from you off fan topic. I think Joern is like fully about the fans today. But Nicolas, coming to you, I mean, we've talked about a few. I'm sure you have a lot more in terms of opportunities that you think are available in this space.
Yeah, first I want to talk about what just been said here. I think it's the value we give to things is changing. So your kids value the fact that they can buy that pink shirt, as other generation will value different things. And I think that's what's the disconnect right now. Some of the older generation that are probably signing check in those organizations, they don't understand because they don't give value to certain things that the Gen Z is giving value to. If I give you a concrete example in NFT. So if I tell you that I have a JPEG of a tennis racket and I tell you it's $10,000, anybody would buy it? Probably not. People will look like it's not worth anything, that tennis racket as an NFT. You were talking about smart contract. What if that racket allows me to go to all the tennis event in the world with the plane included and training with Federer? Now that he's retiring, he has time to do that. So basically, and I need to redeem it in 2 years. So the first year I go around the world and I enjoy what my NFT brings, and then the second year I'm done because I already did it, and then I go on secondary market like OpenSea and I sell it, and there's somebody in Saudi Arabia that buys it for his kid for $100,000. Now we see the value of having that NFT because we see that there's a real life value behind it, and I believe that that's going to be the transition for the older generation where they're going to say, what does it do? What value do I get from this? The younger generation will have, this is the value of me in the world of the avatar wearing Gucci shoes because I wear Gucci shoes, but why do we wear Gucci shoes in real life? Are they better than Nike or Adidas? Not really, because they're Gucci. So it's what people think of us. So if we translate that to the virtual world, they do the same thing with avatar. So I guess the disconnect is how we value things, the older generation, and how the younger generation value things, and how we're going to bridge it in the next couple of years by creating those maybe hybrid NFT where you gain things in real life by buying an NFT, which is a lot of companies are doing this right now.
Yeah, the phygital world, that's a phrase that you've heard about a lot. I'll give you a couple of examples also of some interesting work that we've seen in the space, talking about finding the right partners. Nike, right at the start, let's say about over a year ago, bought a company called Artifact, RTFKT. Which basically produces digital merchandise, exactly like this. You buy an NFT of a digital shoe, and you get a physical shoe, and there are a whole bunch of interesting things that can happen. Why? Because not only have I got access to the shoe, which I love to show, but the value of the shoe is appreciating as well, right? For the user, there is a two-pronged effect. I can use this NFT as a membership pass to gain access to a lot of, let's say, benefits, but at the same time, the value of that pass is also appreciating.
I think what's going to change everything, and I believe that's the real opportunity here, will be the metaverse. Because the metaverse will give us context. Right now, NFT, blockchain, they're concepts. They're just tools. Like, why do I? But the metaverse will give us context. I walk around an event, there's a door, the door is locked, I need to buy an NFT to unlock the door. So I'm doing something that I understand. To cross that door, I need an NFT. So it's clear in my head. So the metaverse will give us context and will help blockchain, NFT, and everything that has to do with Web3 make sense in our world. And as I was saying before, the kids that are playing video games, it's going to be second nature for them to go here. So it's going to take a couple of years, because you said like NFT, the Decentraland, and all that things doesn't allow us for great experiences at this point. But it's a question of time. The same way that at the beginning of the internet, it wasn't very good, but we still went, and then investment were poured into it. That's what's going to happen in the next couple of years. And I think when metaverse is there, it's going to give context to all of these elements of Web3 for everybody.
Fair point. Quick show of hands. How many people have actually stepped into any sort of virtual world? Right? Well, I mean, we've got 1, 2, I can see maybe 5, 10. But I think that's a shot. Maybe that's something that everybody, because you can do it tomorrow. You can just go to Roblox. They have Nike Land, which is available. You can just jump in for free. Australian Open did something interesting. I think the Serie A actually streamed a match on in what they call the metaverse. I think it was AC Milan versus Fiorentina or something. So there's lots of stuff happening. It might be worth for everybody in this room to just jump into one of these virtual worlds and actually experience it for yourself.
Well, we all did. We all played video games at one point. Sure. So we all played video games, we had fun, and I think that's the point here. There's no one thing called the metaverse right now, and that's, I think, the confusion that everybody has. Where is the metaverse? There's no metaverse. There's several metaverse, and there are the centralized metaverse, which are the video games, the Roblox, what Epic Game is doing, and there are the decentralized metaverse that uses the blockchain. So it's really important that you guys understand that a video game is one thing, and they're all jumping on the metaverse wagon, and they are decentralized. The clear winner will be decentralized that allows us to buy and to own. So if I buy something at Roblox, it's not mine, it's Roblox. If they decided to shut down. The decentralized metaverse, which will use the blockchain, I buy something, it's mine. So that will be the future, and those metaverses don't have a great quality. Those are the ones that you're talking about, which is very different from the video game industry. But when we get the same type of quality and engagement from the video game industry into the decentralized metaverse, game over. That's the future.
Plenty of opportunities, especially as you said, from the gaming industry. All right, we've covered opportunities a lot. Now we have to talk about the risks, because there are quite a few. Recently, we've had examples of Arsenal FC, who their tokens, I think with socios, were brought down. They had to take down the advertising because of false claims that apparently they made. The consensus deal with the Premier League, which is a record-breaking deal, over 460 million, I think over a 5-year period. That deal, this news broke yesterday. I read an article that it might be renegotiated because now consensus doesn't have the money in the face of a crypto winter, right? And these are challenges that we're facing. Cristina, I'll start with you on the far end. How does a sports entity cover these risks? How strict do you have to be in your contracts? You have to keep going back to that piece of paper. Like, how can they cover themselves?
So, of course, I think Reyes said this before. Entering into Web3-ish deals presents new legal risks. Things that we at ATH have as experiences that we have been for so long in the space as lawyers that we foresee certain situations that maybe other colleagues do not. For example, crypto winters. You close a deal with a super big crypto firm, 100 million euros, and crypto winter comes in, and their balances are worth just half of what they were worth. What happens? No payment. Okay. So what we have done, for example, at ATH is we have like this leitmotif, which is legal by design. And what we like to do is we get every single client case or contract or project, and I used to call it like a puzzle, and we see where some of the pieces will fail to actually fit if the worst case scenario comes into place. And with the worst case scenario, we work. We say, okay, guys, if this happens, things that we know because we've been in the space for 10 years now. So specific examples that we have is that, for instance, IP clauses, which are negotiated with developers, those are super critical. Also because we do have so we are freaks. At ATH, some people actually confuse us for developers when we are lawyers, because we are very freak about crypto, but we are lawyers. So we have this sort of mixed experience that is super positive for clients because we foresee technical situations and we cover them legally. We've got now in Europe this MiCA regulation that's being developed. Hopefully 2023 is coming into force. And MiCA has very severe provisions for cybersecurity hacks. So what are we doing, for example, at ATH? We have already modified every single agreement that we provide our clients with so that those cybersecurity risks are addressed from MiCA's perspective. It requires, I believe, a very deep interest in the technology, and of course, something that it's taken for granted from lawyers, that is our legal knowledge. If you've got that mix, your clients, I think, are more probable to be well covered and more safe than if you don't have that in place.
Makes sense. I mean, first of all, be prepared for the worst, and secondly, hire good
always.
lawyers. That's a big takeaway. So from a risk management perspective, I mean, FIFA's partnership with Algorand has been made quite public, but how do you, I guess, mitigate for some of the risks that Cristina mentioned?
Yes, I think, like also Cristina and Nicolas mentioned, you have to select your partners carefully because, well, you know that there are thousands of cryptocurrencies right now on the market. There are lots of different blockchains. They all do different things, are at different development stages. So the future perspective, that's also my personal opinion, is that the blockchain market, blockchains will consolidate. Some of them will disappear. Some of them will get connected, like Nicolas said. And then also the same for cryptocurrencies. Like the most useful cryptocurrencies, I believe they will stick around, but the majority will disappear in the coming years or decades. So you should really put your money, or let's say in FIFA's case, or any sports organization's case, you should have a clear use case for a blockchain, because it's too detailed now to go into details, but every blockchain has different, you know, like advantages and disadvantages, right? So there were different reasons at FIFA for selecting Algorand, for example. First of all, it's a sustainable blockchain. So they're not using like the high and very energy efficient, for instance, you know, when operating the blockchain. And that's something which it's really, really important in today's world. Probably everyone knows that, you know, Bitcoin has been criticized frequently for being pretty energy intensive. So that's one key thing, selecting the right partners. And then you mitigate the risks early on. And then, of course, you know, when it comes to the entire revenue, that's the opportunity side, but it could also backfire. In many sports organizations, they don't have, like, especially football clubs around the world, they don't really have a sustainable finance model, so they're in pretty bad shape. You know, for example, like almost half of our member associations at FIFA, we have 211 member associations. Almost half of them didn't report any income from player transfers. That was back in 2018. So we have a couple of reports on that. We don't have aggregated finances of all the clubs and federations. But the model that many clubs around the world have is not really sustainable in the long run. Many are dependent on their owners, for example. So having a look at these opportunities while mitigating the risks, selecting the right partners, you know, putting the right technology in place, and again, getting back to offering what consumers want, will put them in a much better position in the future to enhance their financial situation.
Makes sense. Reyes, for you, first of all, anything to add to the risks already mentioned, but also if you can address, I mean, Cristina mentioned, and I'm sure you'll echo the same, that hire the right lawyers, make sure you're working with the right people who understand the industry. But what can entities do themselves? Like, how can they educate themselves? Maybe you can shed some light about some certain actions that they can already take.
Well, from the entities, I think there is maybe a problem that is in connection with this technology could be expensive. Also, but I think it's something that for clubs is something to take in consideration. And also, well, about the cryptocurrencies and NFTs, I'm worried about the speculation and the fluctuation of these prices in connection with the clubs or news. And it's something that I don't know how could control this speculation. No? This is something that I'm worried about. And also that I said before, the connection with betting, no? This kind of crypto, well, the sports cryptocurrencies and the addiction of the people that are buying this cryptocurrency. I think we are not talking about a lot about this problem, and could be an addition to. So this is something that every sports entity and every club, every player or every professional needs to know and to be aware. No?
Yeah, try to educate yourselves, find the right ways to. Nicolas, to finish with you, I mean, Cristina, Reyes mentioned a great point about the fans and the risks for fans, because we've had examples. Iconic is IQ, a couple of years ago, which just disappeared. Their value completely disappeared, and there were a lot of fans who had invested in their tokens. There are other cryptocurrencies and tokens which fluctuate wildly, where value disappears overnight. What can sports entities do to try to protect those fans, or how does a fan try to protect themselves?
It is a complicated question, and I think there's a parallel to be made to what we lived during the e-commerce phase at the beginning of this. Yeah. And I'm a lawyer myself, so I can talk about this, but the legal system won't go as fast as the crypto and the Web3. It's going to go too fast, and the speed at which that everything is going to change, even if we try to do legal frameworks, it's going to be very complicated. I think the legislative needs to get involved, new laws. It can take years, and in years from now, the conversation we're having about Web3 here is going to change in 6 months. So it's very difficult to create a legal framework. So what happened in the e-commerce phase, I was a lawyer with General Electric, and we were trying, and they're around the world, so we were trying to figure out like what law would apply, and we need to talk to judges and things like that, and we realized that it's self-regulatory initiatives, which is the industry will say, the big ones will get together, and then it will say, this is how we work. If you don't work like this, you don't do business with us. A lot of companies are doing this with sustainability. They want to work with companies that are sustainable, or else they don't do it. Probably you're doing it at FIFA. Now, it's going to be the same thing. To regulate the companies or the clubs or sponsors will to regulate themselves, get together into an industry standard. Maybe the laws, maybe the lawyers, because as much as you want to write clauses in a contract to make sure that 5 years from now a judge is going to tell you that you're right, it's not going to work that way. It has to be self-regulatory initiative where companies and brands say, this is how we work, this is what we are allowed to do, we don't do that. We don't put out there. Now for the fans, I think it's reading, learning, doing stuff, because you cannot curb creativity, you cannot curb innovation by being risk adverse. The more Walmart was risk adverse, they missed the e-commerce phase. So you need to go, but you don't need to go all out. You don't need to put your life savings into things. And as a company, you don't need to change your whole organization. You need to isolate a project, try, fail, try, fail. We need to fail a couple of times before we get it right. So I understand that we need a legal framework, but it's going to take time. But we need to try and test without being afraid that we're going to lose our shirts. So we need to do it in a very organized way. I think companies need to take their responsibility towards their fan, not to get involved in things that don't make sense. And as an ecosystem, we need to protect ourselves, the industry, and also a little bit of our fans. But it's the fan responsibility to learn about these type of things and not start investing their whole life savings into certain things.
Yeah, especially when things are so this new, invest what you can afford to lose. I guess that's a fair principle to abide by. And yeah, read, learn. About the self-regulation, I don't know, maybe it's a bit like asking turkeys to vote for Christmas. It's a bit scary, but maybe there is some space for innovation or for things to come out there already. All right, I mean, we're kind of out of time already, but I will take maybe a couple of minutes more from the panel, if that's all right with everyone. First of all, what opportunity is that most excites you in the space? Nicolas, we'll start with you. Just quickly, maybe in 30 seconds or a minute.
100% the metaverse, because it would encompass everything that has to do, and it will bring some context into the conversation, and we'll find ways to apply real application of blockchains and NFT within a world that we understand, that we see. Everything will come together over the metaverse. Yeah. Joern, for FIFA, or you personally?
Personally, it's also the metaverse, because that's like the consumer-facing application, right? So, and especially like we said before, like if the metaverses are connected, like a browser nowadays, you can jump with your avatar from one virtual world to the next one. That excites me most, because that means you can take your NFTs, you can take your avatar, and you're not confined anymore to isolated worlds, right? So that's the most exciting for me and the place to watch in the future.
And I think the digital wallet could become that hub, which is your basically collection of, it's like a Google password collector, has everything in one place, and your wallet connects you to different worlds, which maybe would be interoperable themselves. Reyes, a more opportunity that most excites you?
Well, I'm excited to know more about everything, the whole Web3, because I think everything is new, is exciting, and the metaverse, of course, is really, really important. But I would like to know how in the next few years we can try to connect something very particular for football that maybe we are missing, and metaverse, and this is passion. Because I think inside the metaverse, we don't have passion. And this is something that I'm excited to know if I'm going to enter in the metaverse to watch my team at home. How can I receive this passion at the same time that I'm going to my stadium and I have received a hug with my friends? So for me, this is really exciting to, okay, what are the next steps inside the metaverse? So, well, we will see.
That's a big one. There's a famous saying, feeling comes before understanding. So if that feeling doesn't come
Yeah.
for a fan in this metaverse or whatever virtual world we create, maybe they won't spend time to understand. Cristina, last one?
I'm not going to say metaverse.
Please do.
I'm going to say this combination of new audiences like Gen Z with the fact that football clubs have a very powerful asset, which is their teams, their players, and their stadiums, and their merchandising, which can be turned into pure digital assets.
Yep. Digital merchandise, it's a huge, huge space. All right, my last question, and this is the one that I always love to end a little panel or conversation on. We're all sports fans here first, I'd like to believe, before we're working in the industry. So the other way down the panel, your favorite sporting moment, either as a fan or as a player, anything that you loved to feel passionate about, as Reyes said.
Okay, so I'm a Valencia Football Club fan, very fun. And I would say, okay, I'm going to say the last match I was at in Mestalla. Because I love like very normal day-to-day events. I like enjoying those. So that's my favorite one. And I hope the next match will be my next favorite moment.
Okay, you just love the stadium. Big Rafa Benitez fan? Everybody loves Rafa still? Yeah. Reyes, for you?
Well, I told you before, I'm Real Betis Balompié fan and crazy about football and Betis. And this year we won the cup, the Spanish Cup, Copa del Rey. So we are champions. So that's
Against
my...
us.
That's it. Mic drop moment.
We won.
Yeah. Perfect. Joern?
Yeah, for me it was more like a project I did before I joined FIFA. I had a consultancy, a sports consultancy, and I had the opportunity to travel around Asia for the Asian Football Confederation and work with almost, a lot of clubs, almost all federations across Asia, which was really amazing because you get to see stuff that you don't see like in European football. There are different development levels, have different challenges, especially in smaller football countries where they're still developing infrastructure. So that was really exciting for me, exciting 2 years.
I remember watching a match in South Africa and other parts of Africa. It's crazy. Like some of these smaller countries, the passion that you see is intense and you really feel it. Nicolas, last one.
It has nothing to do with professional sport. I think it's amateur, even lower. So my father's 75 years old and decided to take on Muay Thai. And he won a competition in Muay Thai in Thailand. I think everybody let them win, but in the sports, that was for me the most passionate I was about my father not getting hurt first, but winning that competition. That was.
I think he was giving the hurt,
that
not
was
getting the hurt.
That was the summon for me.
Fantastic. Well, that's our panel. Everyone, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.